to make part of my planner or my calendar for the upcoming year. And so last night I did a portion of that, and I wanted to share just a little bit of that process. Just as a, I don't know, I want to try sharing some different things and just kind of see what fits right now. This whole year has been so interesting. You know, a lot of new things have been going on in my creative world and just in my personal life and all that, and in my internal world, really. And it's like a lot of things that used to fit just don't fit quite the same anymore. And in a funny way that has shown up has been with planners this year. I went through so many planners in 2017 trying to find what felt like the right fit. You know, ways of keeping track of my days and my calendar that were working before just weren't. I don't know about you, but like when I'm going through like creative changes in my life or new perspectives are taking form and taking root, it's like, you know, it's like growing pains a little bit, and things just don't feel right, or they seem to at first, but it's not quite right. You have to try things on and then, you know, throw them in the pile until you find the thing that works. And the good news is I found myself going back to a traveler's notebook idea and bullet journaling, which I had tried before and I didn't like. As far as that goes, I can see now in retrospect with bullet journaling, I was kind of trying to do too much and keep it too tight. And now I've come to it in a way that's really simple, that makes sense to me. It might drive some people buggy, but it works for me. And I realized that I wasn't crazy about the traveler's notebook I had tried before. I loved having different like journals within a journal, but I didn't like the size. You know, some of them are like passport size, and that's too small for me. And then the standard size is really long and thin. And so I really wanted to go with, a size of journal that I like to write in, and it ends up being like an A5 size. So it's really close to the size of a Moleskine, for instance. The cover here is probably about 8.5, like a piece of paper, by, I don't know what it is, like 5.5-ish, a little more than that, this way, a little bit wider. So it's a little bit wider than a Moleskine will be, but a Moleskine would actually fit in here if I wanted it to. I've played with that size with this as well. And so I went ahead and ordered myself a special blue leather. I loved that blue for some reason this year. Traveler's notebook. Had it made by, I think it was Leather Quill Shop on Etsy. The quality is really good. And so I just want to say that out loud because they're a little, shop of their own doing their thing. And then I started making my own little journal inserts to go with it, using papers I had, or I found some printable dotted paper you could print out. And then I would use old file folders and I sew them on my sewing machine, or I would hand sew them. So this was the monthly calendar from another planner I tried, and I ripped it all out and put it into this file folder so it would fit into the traveler's notebook in that way that they do, so it's on a strap here. And so all of these can be replaced very easily. This first one is my bullet journaling, and I just started a new one for the end of the year. And I do like a weekly, at the beginning of the week, I'll do some weekly notes and to-dos, and it's really a sloppy thing. And then I have the one that I keep for all year. And then I made myself a little folder out of an old file folder that used to fit in like a file cabinet, and with the pockets and everything. And that was fun, and it came out pretty good. And then I have a A5 size journal, which is pretty common. You can find journals this size with lines that I write in more regularly. And I just went ahead and, it's kind of messing up the binding a little bit, but I put some tape to reinforce, and I just put that right into the traveler's notebook. And then I'll carry around these. They'll have like a few sheets of paper at a time. I make them fold over sketchbook paper, and then I'll just use them to sketch in or do little painted things in if I'm, out and about and I want to have something with me to doodle in, for instance. But I love this as far as a planner goes. And so I knew I wanted to make a 2018 calendar to go in here. And so I made these pages. I just measured them out. I really like some of the minimalist look in a lot of bullet journaling. And so I drew them out one day while I was listening to a video or something, and pencil first and then pen, and then I made a bunch of copies and I did them front and back. So right now it's like a blank monthly calendar, right? And I always put in an extra one so that I could do 13 months. So it'll start in January and go through January of the following year. That just helps me as I'm beginning planning the next year. And then last night I took a piece of art. It was like the start of a painting, a layer, real sloppy layers that my husband did. He's an artist too. And this is from what he did, and this is from like the other sides. And I cut it to size for the traveler's notebook, and then folded it, and then I took some scrapbook paper. You guys, this is the thing. I love doing this kind of thing when I don't overthink it. I just pulled out the first paper that grabbed me, and I loved this black and white pattern to go along with that black and white paint pattern that my husband had did, you know, on his page. And then this was a 12 by 12 scrapbook paper. And then I had some of this, what you call it? It's more pulpy sort of paper. I have different designs with that. And I pulled out this red one. So one sheet of that's like 8.5 by 11, and then one 12 by 12 scrapbook paper. And then a piece that never became the painting it was going to be. It was just scrap art we'd had laying around. And so from that, I made a cover that's thicker. And then I just glued each sheet down. I used a medium gel and a brayer, and I did the inside as well. So there's one strip of that goes through, and then the black and white, you know, that went over the middle. And then once that was dry this morning, I took these pages I had printed out and lined them up, and I put some binder clips on it, and I ran it through my sewing machine. I love sewing on paper more than I like sewing things, you know, fabric things. And so just one stitch, and then you tie off, you pull like the thread through, and you tie it off on both sides. That's how I do that. So it's just a little stitch, and it's a little imperfect on the outside, but that's okay. Nobody will ever know the difference. And then I went ahead and did some rounded corners, especially when I'm making my own little journal pages and that. I like doing that because it keeps it from getting, you know, I don't know, just old and worn and bending and all that. And I like the look of the rounded corner. And now, you know, I don't consider the cover done. I'm probably going to add some doodles and maybe some color or whatever along the way here. But I do want to get my calendar going for 2018. So because it's blank months, I need to go in and add the dates and the month titles, you know, for the pages. And that's my next step. So ran through the sewing machine, and voila. Now it will fit in place into my little traveler's notebook. I'll just pull that one out. This one will go in for next year once it's time. It's not quite time yet. Oh wait, I had these on, I forgot I had these two connected, which is so cool. It's one of those things you can do with traveler's notebooks. I have these two connected, and then they go through this one. It gives you a little more. You can have a few more of those in your book. So it'll fit in like that, and voila. So, but for now, I actually just need to finish prepping it so that I can use it, which is what I really need it for right now, because I'm planning in the stars, my program for next year, and I need my calendar. So I have the 2018 calendar printed here, and that is my next step. So I thought it might be fun to show you guys. You know, I know a lot of people are into planners and planning, and we're all trying different ways to find out what fits, you know, our unique lives and preferences and that. And I don't know. I've always enjoyed kind of that sort of thing. And I'm the sort of person that I really like the weekly bullet journaling, because I have to touch in once a week. So I can have it in a monthly calendar like this, but when I do my weekly page in a bullet journal style, when I do that weekly page, I'm touching in. It's like, so it's going to be fresh in my mind. Because I can write it in here once for the month, and 3 months later is when something comes up and I may not be thinking about it. But if I write it out at the beginning of the week, it's fresh on my mind. And that's also how I do, how I track moon signs. And how they change. I do them at the beginning of each week so that I have it fresh in my mind that the moon is going to move from Leo to, let's say, Capricorn this week, or, I don't know if it would jump that much, but you get the idea, so that I have it kind of fresh in my mind where that's going to fall, because that has more meaning for me now that I'm familiar with the moon phases and signs that way. And so I'm going to do the month in pencil, and I'm going to go over that with pen later. But I'll probably just do the numbers in ink today. I use either Pitt pens or microns, so if it gets wet, they don't bleed. And I also like these Sharpie pens a lot. They've become a new favorite. And so this will be January 2018 pencil. I've looked at a lot of bullet journalers, especially people who have their own businesses and that, to kind of get an idea of things to try for myself. And it really took me a little while to find the way that works for me. And I use some color sometimes, but I don't get all fancy with the keys and stuff like some people do, because I find that to be a little more distracting just for the way I am. I could get kind of lost in it and then I don't get anything else done. So January 1st is on a Monday in 2018. And some people would hate this, you know, like filling in the calendar themselves, because you have to go in and put the holidays in and that sort of stuff. And it's another thing that I kind of like doing. It does take a little time. But since I plan programs for my business and, you know, things like that, and I take care of books for my husband's business as well as mine, you know, that kind of thing. I don't know. It just helps my brain if I go through that process myself and just take those extra minutes to do it. I actually have right now, why I want this done, I have my big planning calendar up on the wall. I do this like once a year, up on the wall for my program In the Stars, because we do a lot of exploring and a lot of content and a lot of art making or creative practice together in that program. And, you know, it requires a lot of tending from me throughout the year. And so I have to see it visually to plan it out in a way that makes sense, you know, and that flows with some rhythm for the year. And then once it's all figured out on the wall, then I can write it into my little calendar here that I'll carry with me all the time. So easy weasy. I'll go ahead and I'm going to just ink up. I just did like a cursive month name here. I would really love to learn more typography stuff or calligraphy. But, you know, it's one of those things that I don't have a whole lot of time for. But I like to just like elongate my cursive a little bit and keep it all lower caps. And that makes kind of an interesting title, I think. 11 more to go, 12 more to go. So I would love to know if anybody wants to share your favorite planning techniques. Do you do bullet journal or journaling, or do you have like, I used to have just an everything journal where that worked better for me when I didn't have quite as much to keep track of with my own business and that. And I kept it all kind of in one journal, and it got kind of crazy though. And that's why I like the Traveler's Notebook, because it's still kind of like an everything journal, but there's like 3 or 4 different journals in there at once. And I can have a little mini handmade art journal with me and my writing journal. I really did like, for a couple years, I really liked the passion planners. But I'll tell you, and I like the process of doing a monthly review, which it encourages you to do and has some of the space for that. But I've also found the last few years, like this real desire in me to simplify the look of things. Like I said, the minimalist look is really appealing and helps me feel like I can breathe a little bit, even when things are busy. And so there's a lot of lines in the passion planner. And visually, that just, I don't know, I just stopped using it. And I kind of realized that's what it was. Like I needed some more space. In the Stars next year, we're going to do some cosmic creative planning dates on the equinoxes and the solstices. And that'll be a lot of fun for anybody, you know, in the program. They're going to be interested in astrology as it is. But if you're somebody who's considering joining, that'll be a lot of fun, because we're going to get together and just kind of have a little journal date party like this. And we'll go over the upcoming moon phases and sign changes, the major ones with the full and new moons, and then also the transits with the other planets and what the major energy and themes that'll be happening for the next 3 months when we do those. I'm really looking forward to those and sharing that, because it's something you can work right into your own planning system. And then if you're learning about your astrology chart or whatever, you can work it into how you're, you know, having a relationship with your own birth chart. I really liked how these edges were open. This little side's nice for taking some notes. And this is a pretty small space, but you know, I'm just writing the most important things to remember on those days, like the have-tos. And I often will write those in pencil, or I color code them. So like I have a color for things that are like my blog or like sharing stuff. And then I have a color that's for my program. And then a color for my personal life, that kind of thing. Being a visual person, that always helps me as well. And then I have a color that I'll use if I have like an appointment with somebody else, like somebody else is waiting on me or will be waiting on me. That gets a specific color. This year it was like a hot pink color. You might have noticed, I didn't point this out before, but I actually I've come to prefer a calendar that starts on Monday. Sundays I try to really take to myself, to my home, for the family, that sort of thing, on my own recharging, quiet time practices, that sort of thing. And Monday's really kind of the start of the week for me. I just like to dive in on Mondays. And so I kind of got into the habit of using a calendar that was Monday at the beginning. And I really, really like that. It like moves into a wind down. You know, if you make your own page like this, of course you can do it however you want. So I do the numbers first, and then I'll go in and I'll mark up any holidays that are important for me to be mindful of, either for myself or for like participants or students in my program. And then I would go through and I would probably mark up like personal life, important birthdays and things like that I want to make sure I have a little space for or have on my mind that I don't want to miss. And then I go in and write my business and work stuff. And this is a privilege. I know it, that I get to kind of schedule my life in this way and take it in that order. You know, not everybody gets to do that, but it's something that I have right now that I'm very grateful for, simply by the nature of, you know, working for myself and working at home for this time in my life. I am not someone who does well with digital calendars. That's great that a reminder gets sent and everything, but the minute you swipe the reminder away, it's gone. And the interaction, the palpability for me, and I know other people are like this too, is really helpful, really effective, more effective. So after erasing the pencil marks, I decided to just doodle some color onto the outside cover while I was at it. That just felt kind of fun. And of course I have to fill the whole thing in. And so I hope this was fun for some of you. I know I've appreciated seeing how other creative folks do their planners and calendars in the past. I'd love to hear your ideas, things you love. And if you'd like to see the pictures of the process with this one, you can find me over on Instagram. I think I've put those in one post over there as a visual for those who like to see that process that way.